now that the Filecoin network is live and operational, which was just a massive lift by the entire team, the entire ecosystem, all of the various miners involved. I do think I'm spending a lot of time thinking about what types of businesses will be built on top of Filecoin and what types of services are we excited to invest in and excited to look at that are out there. And there's kind of a convergence here that I think is really interesting between what's happening in the Filecoin ecosystem and what has sort of been the DeFi summer we've seen in Ethereum, where we finally found basically product market fit for DAOs for the first time ever, in my view, with all of these DeFi products and protocols. So for the first time ever, you have this natively on-chain internet-based corporate structure that's supporting these DeFi projects and DeFi protocols, where rather than being operated by sort of a business, these systems like Compound, Uniswap, Yearn are all kind of run by DAOs. And all of the revenues go to those DAOs. Those DAOs manage the treasury, they upgrade the contracts, they pay the open source developers, and yet they're not really located in any specific geography. They're not really subject to any particular jurisdiction. And so I've been excited about this concept of DAOs for a really long time. And I think originally DAOs were sort of viewed as venture funds or investment funds. And while we've seen DAOs like that emerge, we've really seen stronger fit for this on-chain organizational structure with DeFi products. And so one of the limitations of the types of products that DeFi's that DAOs are sponsoring today on Ethereum, though, is that Ethereum is effectively limited to mathematical logic. And this is a lot of just, due to the scaling limitations in the design of Ethereum, you don't really have the ability to serve more complicated data to the end user. In general, these contracts are just doing math. So they lend themselves very well to things like trading, lending, escrow, all of these sort of basic financial primitives. And we're seeing, of course, more advanced, building of those different underlying blocks with things like Yearn, which is sort of like an on-chain hedge fund. So I'm really excited about that whole category, and I love investing in DAOs. I'm really happy to be an investor in many of these DAOs today. And when you look at the market size of a lot of these DAOs, most of them from a market cap perspective are in sort of the hundreds of millions, like most of the sort of blue chip DAOs, as people call them. And I do think that with the expansion of the size of the entire crypto market cap over the next several years by call it 10 times, and the expansion of DeFi, I think, by about 100 times in that same time period, I think you're going to see these DAOs become really, really valuable. And I think they're going to become some of the fastest growing, you can call them companies, but they're going to become some of the fastest growing things in the world. So I'm very, very excited about, investing in this category. But today, all of the DAOs that are out there are limited to these sort of DeFi or like financial applications, right? They don't really have the ability to do other sorts of things other than these kind of trading, lending, math type of things. And so with the launch of Filecoin, I've spent a lot of time thinking about what types of businesses could a DAO build on top of Filecoin, where the DAO is sort of that native corporate structure that sponsors the underlying product. And I've called this data DAOs, right? To just sort of symbolize, I think this is the type of business that I think could get big. And I'm excited to talk to entrepreneurs that are working on this sort of thing on Filecoin. So some ideas here that I've just kind of thought about are, for example, taking very big research sets. So these could be like genomic databases or other sort of research databases where there's just a massive amount of data out there that's maybe disparately held by many different big entities. This is the sort of data sets that I think Filecoin is well positioned to hold and have that sort of secure access to and storage of for a very, very, very long time period with a lot of redundancy. And so you could imagine a lot of different ways that all of that data could be basically owned by and provisioned by a DAO, where the business model is maybe offering the underlying data for research purposes. It could be offering the underlying data for machine learning. So there's lots of different ways people could use, for example, all of the genomic data that we have out there, all of the various historical stock market data that we have out there, very rich data sets there that people want to build machine learning applications around in order to, for example, predict stock prices or come up with a better way to create the next big pharmaceutical drug breakthrough. And so I do think that there's this potential for DAOs to basically own and provision huge data sets. And I think this could potentially be a really viable business model. I think some of these are going to be niche, right? So when you look at things like genomic or medical data being provisioned to drug companies that are searching for like the next drug to solve for some ailment, I think that there's the possibility for the DAO to be the sort of data owner, data provider for those sorts of business use cases. I think many of these will be industry specific. So you could imagine too a data DAO owning a huge swath of say stock market data, very rich, deep data sets that they can provision to people who want to trade on it or build machine learning algorithms on it. So I can imagine a lot of different ways that entrepreneurs could put together specific data sets. And that's sort of like an offline process, right? Of going out and acquiring all the data, storing it, and then actually building a DAO on top of it to basically sell it or use it in some fashion. And so I think this is what I've been able to come up with, just sort of noodling on my own. But I do think this is the tip of the iceberg, like the types of things that people can use Filecoin for to build more expressive applications that go beyond the scope of what DeFi is capable of today. Because DeFi today is very much limited to these financial applications. And the word DeFi even, to me, is sort of just like a rebranding and a narrowing of what we used to talk about in the Ethereum ecosystem, which was dApps, or decentralized applications. And so I think that we've sort of gone through the trough of disillusionment on dApps because frankly, like there wasn't like a social media Web3 thing that really took off or anything like that. But I do think now with the emergence of more flexible expressive systems like Filecoin, whereby people can actually access data through smart contracts in a way that really was just impossible before. There was really no good way to access data sets or access image, databases, or, just all of these big data sets that a lot of machine learning applications, for example, are based on. There was really no good way to embed all of that information in Ethereum and build a smart contract system around it, and thus like a DAO organizational structure around that underlying business logic. And so I'm very excited about the idea for Filecoin to enable kind of these smart contract based applications and sort of expand the universe of what is possible. This isn't, competing with DeFi. It's just expanding the universe of all of the various applications that could be embedded inside a smart contract system by using data storage and data access, and those underlying systems then being sort of monetized through a token DAO-based system that we're now quite familiar with in the Ethereum DeFi ecosystem. And so this is one category that we're really excited to invest in. We would love to talk to entrepreneurs who are working on this. And if you have even more sort of radical out there ideas for how you could use Filecoin to build a business application, I'm very excited to brainstorm those ideas, because I think we are in the very early days of reasoning about how Filecoin could be used to build novel business models. It feels pretty similar to the launch of Ethereum in 2015, where there were a lot of ideas, but nobody really knew what was going to work. Now, fast forward 5 years, it really took until this sort of hockey stick growth curve of DeFi in 2020 for there to be incredible clarity about the ways in which Ethereum was really useful. And that ended up being a lot of different subsets of applications all being combined. The early ones being, things like token issuance and decentralized crowdfunding, mixed with stable coins, mixed with decentralized exchanges mixed with lending protocols, that all kind of being put together, leading to these more expressive and exciting applications that were actually useful for end consumers, while abstracting away a lot of that underlying complexity. And so I think we are in the very, very early days. I would echo what Ryan said, which is we need to be incredibly ambitious, but at the same time be a bit patient while we watch experimentation in this ecosystem and see what types of business models people can build on top of Filecoin. Because I think it will take a little while before we kind of work through that idea maze. When you're working with these open products, open protocols, where anyone in the world can build anything, and it's sort of infinitely remixable, it's often very hard to predict the future because the rate of change is so rapid. So we're going to be watching this really closely. We're going to be really engaged in this ecosystem. And yeah, I'm very excited to talk to any entrepreneurs or really brainstorm with anyone who has cool ideas for new types of business models, new types of applications that are uniquely enabled by Filecoin. I do think we have sort of a really genuinely new primitive for Web3 that we've never had before. And it is going to lead to novel business applications that are frankly very hard to imagine today. So really excited to be a part of the whole ecosystem. And if you're an entrepreneur, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to chat.
Awesome, fantastic. Thanks so much, Olaf. This is super relevant and also complementary to a whole other segment that we had earlier today. So I'm so excited for folks watching this to put a few of these speeches together. So thank you so much.